Hey, what's going on? Nick Unsworth from lifeonfire.com. I'm here with my main man, Wes Chapman. What's up, brother?
Not much. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. You can hit it back. I don't know how many times I've been left hanging in that situation, but so cool. So we're going to dive in today to a little bit of your background as an entrepreneur and just some of the things that have happened in your life. And guys, what I'm super excited about is featuring Wes here today. It's a story about taking things that have happened in life and just using that as fuel to derive your purpose.
Right.
And from that to use mindset techniques to overcome adversity. And essentially you're going on and now you're on a mission. And with Life on Fire and highlighting someone that is on fire, he's literally pursuing what he's here to do, and it's got a movement he's starting. And what better way to showcase what a Life on Fire is than to show someone that's literally creating a big fatty movement. So stay tuned. Hey, what's going on? Nick Unsworth here, and I'm a kick-ass business coach, and I'm on an absolute mission to help you find your purpose in life, to help you love what you do for work every single day, to help you be the rock star that you are meant to be, to make more money than you ever thought was possible, and to have more time freedom so you can actually enjoy the life that you're living. I'm here to help you set your life on fire. All right, so we're back here with Wes Chapman, and so today we're gonna dive into a couple different things. We're gonna touch on the 4 pillars of a life on fire. So I'm always sharing with these guys. We're gonna always kind of tiptoe around these different pillars. So we've got mindset, we've got marketing, networking, and purpose. And so I've got a good familiarity about about you and your business. We've done some really cool things together. I think the story about how we met.
Cool.
Yeah,
exactly.
But before we dive into that, for context, tell us about the founders video, and I think we should roll that tape.
Yeah. So this it's a crazy story. I shot a video when I started the project, the Human Project, and I shot it at the beach, and I just kind of told not that it was angry, but it was just like, I'm going to tell you what I'm doing. And I got some feedback from people that were like, there's no emotion there. I don't, I know you, but I can't believe it because of just the way I did the video. So I thought, all right, I'll reshoot the video. And I put it off for, I don't know, like 3 months. Yeah. And then finally one night I'm like, well, I'm going to shoot this video, but I'm going to shoot a video about like what we do and how we do it. And I said a prayer, and I sat down, and I turned the camera on, and the video you guys are about to see was what happened, which was not what I was expecting. I one cut, said it, and I got done, and I was like, that was weird. Like, I really dived into some things and, got it down to like 5 minutes. And my fiance watched it, and she was like, Wes, like, that's it. That's the video that explains why you're doing what you're doing. So this is it.
This is it. All right, let's roll it.
Cool. My first memory of my father is when I was 26 years old in a high-end hotel elevator. My first memory of my mother, it's a little different. You see, my mother and father separated when I was 1, and my dad took off. Now, my mom didn't wait long to get married, and she remarried quickly, and she hooked up with a very dark individual. And this dark individual was incredibly abusive. Now, my first childhood memory, it's not of ice cream or a park or some cool experience, some family vacation. It was almost like a horrifying dream where I was watching this crime, except it wasn't a dream, it was my reality. And the crime I was watching was against my own family members. You see, my first childhood memory is this like cold sweat watching my siblings being molested in front of me. And there was nothing I could do. I was the oldest, supposed to be the protector. I was a man. This guy was foreign to us. But there was nothing I could do. I was being molested as well. Not just molested, but physically abused, mentally abused, tormented, teased, neglected. He seemed to use us for his own amusement. He'd get us drunk with his brothers and see what would happen. He'd have us look at Playboy magazines and see if we'd get aroused as small boys. He'd tie us up to a doghouse and have us eat dog food out of a dog dish. Man, it was like something out of a horror movie, except it was my life. But then something miraculous happened. I threw fits, I
threw temper tantrums. I did all these things. And my mom finally gave up on me. And at 6.5 years old, she left. Now, as an early teen, man, I was ticked off about that. But as I've grown up, that was the greatest blessing ever. But I remember when I was 12, I wanted to know my mom a little bit more, and I wanted to know what's going on. So they let me go spend 2 weeks with her. She was still with that dark guy. And he was still the same dark guy. This time I was a little older, but there was still nothing I could do because he knew I was older, and so he took us, my siblings and I, hung us upside down on this clothesline, took a knife to our throat, and told us that if we ever told anyone what was going on, we'd be dead. Not just us, but everybody we loved. I believed him. And I left. And I rarely tell that story. Because I feel guilty. Because I couldn't do anything to help my siblings. I got out. And yeah, I have scars. And I tried to commit suicide more times than I can count. I was unhappy. I've made mistakes. But nothing gets me as choked up as remembering that I was there and there was nothing I could do. Years have gone by. I'm an adult now, but I'm still that little boy who wishes he could have helped. Well, God has a funny way of making everything work out. Maybe not exactly how we have planned, but he has a plan. And that plan for me is a human project. You see, there are thousands of kids, children, youth, just like my siblings, who aren't getting out, who need help. Maybe they're not being as abused as we were. Maybe they're being abused more. But nonetheless, they feel abused. They feel neglected. They're cutting. They're trying to commit suicide. They're doing horrific acts to get attention. And we are just labeling them as, hooligans or problems or entitled. And really, they just want to be loved. And I'm proof. I'm proof that it's all okay. I'm proof that I'm here to live another day. And I'm proof that I'm here to be me and that I'm only human. I started a human project for one mission, and that mission is to empower youth, to build a community of empowered youth that can fight against this abuse and neglect in their own lives and have that power that my siblings never had. Heck, the power that I never had. And to give them hope, to give them understanding, to let them make a choice, to let them take action in their lives, and to let them be nourished and nourish their possibilities. I'm the founder of a human project. I can't do this alone. I need your help. Millions of children need your help. My story's just a number. Let's make a difference. Let's change the world. Let's be human.
Wow, I mean that's powerful stuff.
Kind of changes the mood a little bit, but the
bit of a mood changer. Woo!
the point is that it's it's like as it's structured in the story is that life comes around full circle. Here I was in the situation as a child that I couldn't do anything, and now I'm in the situation as an adult where God has basically said, and the universe has said, look, you've got all these tools. You've been an entrepreneur for 22 plus years. You've got all these tools. You've got this passion, and I don't know how many more times I'm going to tell you like you're on the wrong path, So this is where you are. So as somber as that may be, it's reality, but the exciting part about it is that now, as you say, I'm like on purpose like I've never been before. It's insane.
And that alignment is something I want to dive into for a little bit, because I see, I mean, for you, you're literally, exactly doing, what you should be doing. And I feel like for me, I'm experiencing that too with Life on Fire. And mine, goes back to my background and how I was raised. And there's, some cool things and some negative things. And so how would you explain or help someone get on the right track with their alignment or find their purpose?
That's a deep question.
It's a doozy of a question. It's like so Wes, tell us how to find the meaning of life.
Life, yeah, I know. It's like, and you want me to do this in 10
do it in like
minutes?
2 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I guess I'll just say my personal story, and then you can kind of take out it from there. Because of my past and who I was ashamed of everything about who I was, from the abuse that I went through to who my father is, to how I was raised as a child. I was just deep down inside, I was very ashamed. And so I did everything the opposite of what I was or who I was. So for example, if you would have met me a year ago, which, we did, but I mean, if even further back, I was the guy that wore perfectly custom suits, my shoes were always this, my shirts were always pressed. Like I looked.
You had yellow pants.
Oh yeah. I still like that. That's cool.
Okay.
I don't mind, funking it up a little bit, but I was just in such a position. I mean, my first day of public school, I wore a suit. I mean,
whoa.
Yeah.
And
like
what grade was that?
7th grade. So it was just, you can imagine,
Wow.
Yeah, I was bullied. Weird, huh? Right. But no, but I mean, it was just because that was where, not that where I was comfortable in sense, but I was comfortable being in the world in that way. So that led me into the entrepreneurial world. It led me to where I was. And I mean, people would say like, were you born in a suit? And I was like, yeah, I was born in a suit, because that was a more of an exciting thing for me to think about, instead of being like, no, I was born in crap and doghouse and whatever. Yeah, I was born in a suit, and that's such a positive thing, right? And so it was really a mindset for me where I said, okay, when are you going to stop lying to yourself in all reality? And it's not like a lie like you're lying and hurting people, but when are you going to when am I going to stop lying to myself and actually be who I am?
Yeah.
Which was very uncomfortable. For me to wear t-shirts and jeans is like really, it's now becoming more comfortable, but at first it was uncomfortable, but it's who I am.
Yeah.
And so the first part to kind of get yourself in line with your purpose is to stop pretending to be anything but you. And that's hard because there's so many social things, there's so many things around you, that you feel peer pressure, you feel this, you feel whatever.
You want to be like someone else, and
or
you take on their mannerisms, or
exactly, or you don't want to be you because you're ashamed of yourself or whatever. So, I mean, I think everyone's gonna have a different answer, but for me, it's just hone in on who you are as a person and be honest with yourself. Sit in the mirror and just say, who am I, and what are the illusions that I'm putting out to people that I need to, get rid of, and then that way you can be true to yourself.
Sure, and it's almost like in that scenario, you can look back at the things. I mean, in your case, you're taking those experiences and saying, you know what, how can I use that as fuel,
right?
To help other people. And so tell us about, I think, on the mindset side of things, what takeaways can you pull out from overcoming such adversity, and then how you're leveraging that into the future?
Well, mindset, I think it's everything. In fact, just before this interview, I posted, on Facebook, how's everyone's week been, right?
Yeah.
And it's like 50 comments, and they're all over the map, And then some people are like, they're complaining about Obamacare. Some people are complaining about life. Others are like, it's amazing. So I was like, well, that was kind of a stupid thing to ask in social media, like really, But what I decided to do was, I went in and I commented and I said, look, for those of you that are having a bad week, first thing you need to do is change everything, right? Yeah. Well, the first thing you need to change is your perspective, your own self, the way you're thinking.
Sure.
And that's mindset. You look at a bad situation and you have two options. You can either be a victim or be a hero. And so, for me, there was some victim. I mean, I was a victim until probably about 16 years old, in all reality. And that's when I decided, like, look, the last time I was physically abused was probably when I was about 14 or 15. And so, but the last time I was extremely, sexually abused was when I was 6.5. And so I carried all that pain with me until I was 16 years old. And I wasn't hurting anybody, but myself, And so I was continually letting that abuse affect my everyday life. And, that's where I just kind of said, look, Chapman, you got to make a shift. And so the mind is such a powerful tool. And I've just simplified it. You're either a victim or a hero. Whatever happens in your life, look at it that way. And the definition of a hero is just doing something little that makes progress, that moves you forward. And the definition of victim is focusing on all the stuff around you that just keeps you either stationary or pulls you back.
Totally. And I think we can all relate this back to, I mean, in your case, I mean, there's some big examples, but it could be the little things. It's like, you know, to put it to a business perspective, like, you know, I've got clients that might do a product launch or a webinar, and they can either blame everyone else around them, or they can look at it and say, you know what are the positives that came out of it, and how do I move forward? How do I make progress?
Yeah.
You know, that progress creates momentum. And it's like, you know, and what's so crazy is, like you referenced, the mind being such a powerful, you know, source and thing. And it's like, it's a choice to be the victim or to be the hero, and acknowledging that and saying, if you're having negative thoughts, or it's like, you know, I often have heard from personal development folks, where it's like a woman gets raped and then they rape themselves in their mind
over and over
100
again
times a day.
Exactly.
And yet that to some degree, it's a choice to think and move forward on the positive side of things. And so, you know, and what I love about this is you made it so simple. So whether it's something that's from the past that's haunting you, or whether it's something that happens in business or something that happens on a day-to-day basis, you stub your toe, it's a choice to be like, man, well, the bed shouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
Or it's like, you know what?
Or for me, road rage. You know, it's like, you know, I constantly am like, okay, you know, it's like, do I do something or do I not? You know,
So that's huge. I think that's a really good takeaway and lesson. And then, and so tell us just about, you know, about how you're, you know, using, you know, your past experiences as fuel, you know, to create a movement, and a little bit about the project.
So as you heard in the video, I mean, one of the simplest ways I can explain what I'm doing is that I was abused, I went through those things, but being the oldest in the situation and then watching my siblings go through it, it was really, it was even something I didn't recognize inside myself until maybe, you know, 10 years ago, is that I just felt like I was carrying around this pain. I'm one of those guys that, like, if you get hurt or like you're having a bad day, I feel it with you, you know, and I've always wondered, like, why? And now that makes sense to me. And so I've been able to, you know, work through that emotionally and build myself a strength and a wall with that.
Yeah.
But it really got me thinking about, you know, all of the youth that are still in these situations, you know, they're still in this type of an environment, and how can I help them? You know, I spoke a lot, and you and I connected with foster youth. And, you know, since I've started a human project, I've kind of said, wow, the foster youth, not that they have it made, that's the wrong thing, but based on their situations, you know, they may be in a really nice home, or they have, you know, a facility, and I know there's foster care problems, and definitely. But for me, it was kind of like, wow, these kids are kind of lucky because they got out. There are still youth that are in abusive, neglective situations that are, you know, they go to school, and when that school bell rings, it's back to, you know, it's back to the abuse, or back to life, or back to neglect. And so that's really where a human project was kind of, you know, sprung out of that, of those, the emotional of my past. And it wasn't about my victim story or anything. It was really about, like, how am I going to ensure that my siblings don't happen 50 million times over again?
Sure.
And so a human project is all about working with youth who are in neglected situations, abused situations. I mean, it's all over the map. And we have some kids that they come from fairly decent homes where they love their families, but there's maybe their dad took off, right? And so their dad's not around, but their mom is stellar, but that dad taking off affects them, and they get into drugs. You know, we have one youth right now in our program who started drugs at the age of 10, right? And ecstasy was his first drug. I mean, it's like, whoa.
At
you know,
10 years old, that's crazy.
It's crazy, right? Like, he's an alcoholic by 13. He's you know, been in juvie more times than you can count. And he's in the program, and within a matter of time, you know, we've been working with him for about 2 months now, and he's starting to build himself up and understand that, look, every decision I make affects, you know, the outcome.
Sure.
And so it's a mindset, like you just said. I mean, the first thing we work on, we've broken down human into, you know, an algorithm, if you would, of hope, understanding, making a choice, action, and and nourishing.
Okay.
And the first part is hope, right? Without hope, it doesn't exist. I mean, I love the line in Batman, right, where Batman, the last one, where he's in the cave and the villain is like, looks at him and he puts Gotham City on the TV, and Bruce is like, what are you doing that for? And he's like, because without hope, there's no true despair. Well, without hope, there's also, you know, there's nothing. I mean, just hope is kind of that one thing, and you bring it into business, like you're hoping that your webinar or your thing just takes off and it solves your financial issues, or, you know, takes you to that next level. Well, with youth, a lot of these guys don't have any hope.
Yeah.
And then we move hope into belief, you know, and all those things, and then understanding. And so there's all these elements of what we're doing, but the main thing is taking these youth and giving them the tools so that when they go back into the environment, they're prepared.
Sure. I mean, it's such a, you know, awesome thing that you're doing. I mean, it's literally changing the lives of kids, you know, and I think that this is like, if it's a snowball rolling down a mountain, I mean, you're picking up snow, it's getting bigger and bigger.
It's a terrifying snowball in a lot of ways.
It's a crazy
in a good
thing.
way.
But it's like, you know, as far as living a life on fire, this is something that, you know, if you weren't getting paid, would you still do it?
Hands down. And in fact, that's a good point, because, you know, what do you define getting paid? I mean, we're just getting this thing started. I mean, I gave up my entrepreneurial side of life, which was very, very lucrative. I mean, I was very successful. I had everything going that I wanted to, and we gave that up. And it was really interesting, because the night this all happened, it was like we were on fire, right? And it was like, you know, what can we look at in our lives that we don't need? And things just became so much more purpose oriented. You know, the suits weren't as important as more the TV. I mean, just so many little things just didn't really matter. And it's not like everyone has to just go and live in a box. That's not what I'm saying. And, you know, do your passion, but it just aligned everything so much more on purpose. So.
And I think some of the big takeaways is that when, you know, if you think about what you do right now, you know, whether you're driving and listening to this, or you're watching or seeing it on YouTube, I mean, at the end of the day, if you just take a second right now and think about your life, and would you do what you do for work if you weren't getting paid?
Yeah.
And if the answer is heck no, then you may not be doing the right thing.
Probably not doing the right thing. You know?
May not, as in you definitely aren't doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But I think that's the power. I think a big takeaway from this entire episode together is that the power of the alignment and purpose. Because, you know, for me, it's like, if I wasn't getting paid, I know for a fact I would still do the coaching with the clients. I mean, I would do it. You know, my goal, I can't wait to the point where I can have enough investments and things where I don't have to work. Yeah. But I still do it because of the love of being a coach, you know, and helping and being able to give back.
And that translates into your coaching. I mean, I know a lot of your clients, and it's always, you know, I'll talk about you or whatever, and the first thing out of people's mouth is Nick cares. And I'm like, you know, you kind of take a step back, because how many times do you go to a coach or whatever, and it's like, I mean, think of football or something. It's like the last thing out of the quarterback's mouth is probably gonna be, my coach cares. It's like, you know, he does, but you get what I'm saying. It's like, so that because you're in line with what you love doing, it comes across, and that makes it successful. You know, so
and you know, and I think it's like, and ultimately, I feel like for a lot of people, you can make money, use that money to affect change and give back to a cause that's important to you. And that's another cool path. In your case, you're like going directly at it. Like for me, I love doing what I'm doing. And then on top of that, I want to find ways to give back to charities that I care about.
Right.
You're going straight at it. And I think that's huge. I mean, you're taking the risk and of just saying, screw it, I'm going to walk away from my entrepreneurial career and go heavy into this. And it takes guts, but the passion and the inspiration from this fuels you, you know? And so, you know, from this, let's talk about marketing. You know, how are you building up this movement? Because I think for anyone that, you know, looks at this situation, gets inspired, that, man, what if you could take something that's happened to you in the past and look at it from a hero's lens and do something about it. Like at the end of your life, I mean, what an amazing way you could look at your life and say, look at the ripple effect I created. Look at the snowball that's now going down the mountain that I created. You know, so that's one piece, or just doing what you love in general. But how do you take that? You've already, you know, jumped into it head first, had the guts to do it and be bold enough to do it, and to, you know, be vulnerable, sharing your story. And then, you know, how are you proceeding to market this thing?
You know, it's been a process in that. I mean, my first entrepreneurial story, you know, for those of you that want to go out and look at it, is 8 years old is when I started my first business, you know, because of my life and where I came from. And I literally sat on a tire swing, had a problem, looked around, saw flowers, grabbed scissors, took my bike, cut flowers, ran down the road and sold flowers and made $500 a day, right? So I've never lost that kind of like, oh, that's what I'm going to do. I mean, April 8th is when this change in my life happened. You know, January is when it really started, but April 8th is like, that's when, you know, that's when the day that everything changed. By April 11th, I'd formed a board, set up filed everything with the government for 501c3 and jumped into it. So the first thought wasn't necessarily marketing. Now we're stepping back and saying, okay, you know, we've got to get this thing funded. We've got to do donations. We've got to do all that. And the marketing side of it, for me, that's where I've played for 20 years, is storytelling. I love storytelling, whether it's in your brand, your messaging, your videos. And so that's where we're going now. You know, we're launching a whole I Am Human series video thing. You know, we've got so many different aspects. But I mean, generally, I'm not a plan guy. Like, I know a lot of people would sit here and be like, well, you sit down and you come up with a marketing plan. That's just not me. I kind of just jump into things, and it's been positive and negative, right? It's kind of the Richard Branson philosophy. It's like, well, I'm going to jump out of this and see what happens. I love the quote, true entrepreneurs jump off the cliff and then figure out how to, paraglide or whatever afterwards. I just love that concept. That's just me. Not every entrepreneur needs to be that way.
Well, I think at the end of the day, action is going to trump planning any day of the week.
And a lot of times...
And then learning in the course corrections. You know?
And we move so fast, My first idea with the Human Project was, we're going to use, a lot of Facebook and YouTube and stuff. And then I started looking, and then bam, Facebook changes their algorithm, and Facebook pages don't work as well. And then, wait a minute, the teens don't use it. I mean, it's like all these things can just shift so quickly. And it was like, we'll use Snapchat, right? Like we'll do that somehow. And now Snapchat's kind of like dropping down. So it's just... Sometimes you can overplan, but at the same time, sometimes you can't plan enough. So we've stepped back and we've really mapped out exactly what we're going to do, and it's really about exposure. It's about sharing the story, the message, and to some degree, because of what I've decided to do, the vulnerability isn't an option. Like I have to be, so that people understand why we're doing it. And then same for the youth. We coach them, and they go through and they understand how powerful they are and what an inspiration they are. And I could tell stories upon stories. We don't recruit youth in any other way than just youth being youth. I mean, they come in 2 by 2. One youth comes in and gets some help and some encouragement and starts going through, and then they have a friend who's being molested or hurt or whatever. I mean, it's a snowball, like you said.
And then how about for the impact of just PR and sharing? Because I think something I find that's unique about what you're doing is the storytelling, and using that just in marketing, and then also using the stories within PR, to get on television shows, to get into other forms of other publications, if you will.
Right. And I love PR. I set a goal in the beginning of the year that I would do 365 interviews this year. This is my 291st interview this year. So what is it, July 17th or whatever?
So
18th.
you're past halfway.
So we'll get there, but it was a goal, and I know like everybody who's part of Life on Fire, I mean, goals are huge, right? And so I set that goal, put it in the universe, and just have been cranking at it. And it's everything from radio to programs like yours to podcasts, and we're building up. That was my idea. Is like, look, you got to start somewhere, and then you just keep leveraging and leveraging and leveraging until our ultimate goal. Our ultimate goal is to be on Ellen. And then that's starting to come through. I mean, you and I have similar friends who have great connections, and things happen when you put it out there. And so with PR, it's not any different. You've got to start putting it out there, and you've got to start being approachable. And a tip in PR is finding what the environment is going on, around, if you want to be on a certain program, watch it for a little bit and figure out what's the environment that's going on there. How can I be of value? I think too many people want PR to be value to them, and what true PR companies are looking for, and shows like yourself, and I have my podcast too. We're not necessarily looking for people just to come on and be like, okay, Nick, save the day and fix all my problems. We're looking for people who are going to come on and give our audience value.
Definitely.
So when you're talking about marketing and PR, how can you give value to where you want to be? I want to get on Ellen, not because, selfishly it's going to be huge.
You want to dance?
But
because she's a big dancer.
I'll dance all day long, man. So.
Ellen, I want to get on there and just salsa for like 12 minutes.
And just intro, just like coming in, I mean, but how are you how do you give value to Ellen? How does Ellen's audience and Ellen herself get value by being in your presence? And I think once you again, mindset, right? You shift that. Even in your marketing, how are you giving value to people? In anything that you're doing, it's the V word, right? Value, value, value. And we're so used to being told how to buy things, being told how to do things, and now we're it's a shift, right? It's like everyone, even Coca-Cola is like, well, now we have to give you value as to why you drink Coke. So we give all this money away. No, that didn't work. Oh, green Coke, that didn't work. I mean, they're still trying to figure it out, and they're a huge, huge mega corporation. So. And you got to do it in a sense that it's not phony too. I mean, it's just a delicate balance. It's,
I mean, ultimately, what's cool, that comes back to the, as far as networking goes, it's like, the value first. But it is true. As PR, it's funny that there's hiring someone or a PR company, and it's like, just get me on the shows. But really, it's taking a moment to really understand what matters for them, what's in it for them, and being creative and unique, and to get on it. And I think what's cool is, we've got some great contacts and people that know people to get in front of shows, but at the end of the day,
you still have to kind of come together and prepare something unique for that. And what I found is that on the PR side, it's to get into the right big places, you still kind of need to, if you're the guy, it's like you might need to be the guy that's sharing or pitching what it is that you want.
You're exactly right.
You can't always delegate that, which is unfortunate, but it's the truth, you know. And
one of my good friends, Garrett Gee, he's the founder of Scan, which is I think it's the #1 QR code app on the iPhone, and now on all of them. He, got a huge partnership with Google Ventures to doing all this stuff, and he hired a PR company, right?
Yep.
And like major players involved in him, the owners of the Knicks and all this stuff. And so he has this PR company, they're doing it, and he's just not getting anything. And so he did. He took it over. He figured out, he and I had a conversation. He figured it out, got all this stuff going. And then he was, now if you Google him, he's everywhere. He's on Mashable, he's on Twa. I mean, he's on every blog. He's speaking at every conference because he took over. And every time he wanted to be at a certain location, he pitched, he did it. Now he's built that resume, and now they come to him. So I'm not dogging PR companies. I'm just saying sometimes, and especially if you can't afford a PR company, you gotta take it on yourself.
Pound the pavement, take it on yourself. And so if we shift into the networking pillar, I think we've got a kind of a cool story just about how we met, and so just to share that. And I think it's a testament to the power of networking, and that's why it's one of our
social media too.
Yeah, and social media. And that's why it's one of the pillars of a life on fire, because at the end of the day, if you network up, surround yourself with the right people, life is way more fun. Business is way more fun, more profitable, fruitful, and things happen.
And it's easier.
Way easier.
Yeah.
Way easier.
The way, I still remember, like, you're doing your Facebook ads, right? And you're targeting women. Everyone. But you're doing your thing, and I kept seeing your face, and I just kept seeing like this. I'm like, who the heck is Nick Unsworth, and how is he gonna like change my life and my business, right? And then I saw you with like other people, and I'm like, okay, this guy's just like selling, right? And I somehow, I don't know, I liked your page or something, right? I must have clicked
into the funnel.
You got in, right? I don't know. And like all of a sudden, I'm up at 4 a.m., right? And I'm just scrolling through Facebook, and I see this post from you, and it's like, hey, I'm up at 4:20 or whatever it was.
December 8th.
Yeah.
That was the day that I
Some
got
about the
saved.
8th, man. April 8th, December 8th. Anyway.
Yeah.
And so like all of a sudden, you're talking about how you had this idea, this dream, right? That you were going to help foster youth. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Like maybe he's not just this next guy who's trying to use the internet to make money. Yeah, right? And so I'm like, who is this guy? And so I started doing a little, like, I read your status, and you had this whole idea of donating your birthday, doing this party, using entrepreneurs to get together. And like your party was when I was leaving, so I couldn't come, but I was like, all right, I'm going to reach out to this guy and see what happens. And so I did. And you're very accessible. And like 2 days later, you or I getting a call together, we're on the phone, and we're talking about value, right? Like I'm telling you my network, you're telling me yours, and we just networked right into it.
It was an easy connection. Because at the end of the day, like, most people are going to see interaction. Unless you're like mega like a Richard Branson, but most people, when you get too busy, you can't respond to everything. But it's like, where's the value? And so when you reached out, it was like, you shared like something that basically allowed me to realize, like, boom, incredible guy doing big things. And then it was like, you came at me like, you've got a network that's growing, building in your PR and things, and that you could help me on that.
Right.
And so there was an instant value exchange. It was like, yeah, man, instantly love to meet and hang with you. And then from there,
then I went to the Life on Fire event, and we had the whole thing, and that's your mastermind, and I participated in that, and
I want to set the landscape for that, because this is something that was interesting. And so when we do our events, we try and like really go above and beyond for our clients. And and the cool thing is that in some cases, we invite like VIPs, to it as well. A guy like Wes, and we spent a tremendous amount of money, to get Gary Vaynerchuk there. It was over like $35,000 to have him keynote, but then hang with us so that our clients could meet him and hang out.
And he's such a cool guy. Like such a cool guy.
And so tell us about that, like, so that mixer and.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I've about 9 months providing value to Gary, and now Gary and I are actually friends. I can use that word. I can use the F word with him. But for those of you who know Gary Vaynerchuk, you know what I'm saying there. But anyway, so afterwards we were networking, and at the event, Michael O'Neill, right, another one
Yeah.
of our friends, had invited Eric, one of these, a younger guy still in high school, but really entrepreneurial spirit,
Yeah.
and he happens to be from Russia. Well, he has an immediate like man crush on Gary Vaynerchuk, right?
Yeah.
So we're all hanging out after in the mingle, and Gary and I are chatting, and Eric comes up to him like, here's his idol, and he's just chatting
Yeah.
with him, and he wants to take a picture, right? Like, take a selfie, and he whips out his phone and selfie, phone's dead, right? And I'm like sitting there and I'm not really paying attention, but then I'm
Yeah.
like, oh wait, and I'm like, oh, I'll take a picture for you. And I didn't think anything of it, snap a picture, and this Eric, individual is like grateful, thank you, email it to me, he goes and does some research on it. Meanwhile, I'm going to the mastermind, I'm like thinking about all these things in my head, and I told you, I just saw this t-shirt like on Sunday after the mastermind was over, and I took Burnoff, right? I took him to the airport, and I'm driving home and getting on the 5, right? That makes me sound like I'm from California, right? I'm getting on the 5.
The 5.
And I just see this black t-shirt with I am human, just huge white block letters on it. And that night I went home and just started like crushing it and figuring out everything I wanted to do. And then this Eric kid reaches out to me, and he's like, I researched you. Thanks for taking the picture. Your story is amazing. I volunteer at this nonprofit. I'd love to have you come speak at it. If I can hook it up, sure. Boom. All these domino effects happen, which lead me to April 8th and meeting Alexandra, which is the whole start of a human project. So it's just like, you never know. Like, part of me was kind of like, I don't have time to go to this, Nick Unsworth Life on Fire event. Like, I want to meet the guy, but like, let's just do dinner and hang and I'll figure it out. Like, I don't know if I've got 3 days, And what's even funny is on Sunday, I wasn't going to come to the mastermind thing. And it was like, Jody and I went to the dinner thing, and then, our child had an issue. We had to run home and take care of it. So I didn't get to like, literally, I try to be polite. I didn't get to say like, thank you, Nick, for having me at your event. So I'm like, I told Jody, on Sunday, I need to go and just say, thanks, Nick. Thanks for having me, treating me like an awesome VIP. Let's do dinner, and just be polite about it. And so I came to the event literally planning on shaking your hand, giving you a hug and saying, let's catch dinner. And then we just like Burnoff came unexpected. Like all these things just happen, right?
Burnoff's an animal.
He's a stud. And so
he's so good.
You just never know what's going to happen. And sometimes I love the line from one of my mentors, David Bradford. It's not enough to just go. You've got to really show up. You got to get in there and
be present,
be on the front row, right? Like it doesn't do you any good just to be there. You need to show up and be on the front row. And that's what happened at that event. Like I could have been like, cool event, see you later. But I wanted, to be on the front row and participate in the mastermind, give some value to your clients and all that stuff. And so, anyway, networking is such an underappreciated, power.
Totally. So, I mean, and I think like hanging with Gary at our event, plus your other interactions. I mean, at the end of the day,
well, now he's helping with the human project. So
well,
that's like
that's the thing. I mean, Gary's the guy's a major influencer, and for him to be on your board and to say, I remember we had dinner the other night and you said that Gary said,
his thing was, he's more of an advisor than an official board member, but he said the first thing was the yellow, right? We used to be yellow, and his first thing was like, you got to go to green, and I'm like, what? Like why? We just did all this branding, and it was just now totally everything fell in line as to why we need to use green, and that's a simple thing, but now our messaging is completely different. And Gary's, obviously with his social media, just giving tons of little tidbits and like do things like this and like that. And it's just, and of course he's opening doors, that's the huge thing. It's like, hey, you need some help? Okay. You want to meet Adam Braun? You want to meet this guy? You want to meet this guy? It's like doors open because of that connection. And it wasn't overnight. I spent like close to a year. I bought hundreds of Jab Jab Right Hook. Like, it was just like I was constantly helping and adding value to his life. And now, I expected it to just be like, I'll get coffee with him, right? Like something from Crush It or something, right? But like, no, now we're friends. Now I can email him. Now I can, get in touch with him. Now we can have a conversation, and and there's value there on both sides.
You're friends with Gary, and that unlocks the doors to all these other folks.
Possibilities.
Even just a 5-minute call with Adam Braun, who's running a mega
awesome.
nonprofit.
He's one of, and now I'm digging into his stuff and understanding. Our whole thing with us, we don't call ourselves a nonprofit. We call ourselves a for purpose, and that's because of a keynote and talking with him. So everything just happens, right? When you get out there, you network, you mindset. You're on purpose. It's just. You sit here and you say it, but I'm proof of it, right? Like I am proof that is exactly what will happen when you follow these 4 pillars. I love that. It's awesome.
Dude, awesome. Well, hey, we're gonna wrap things up, but before we go, two things. One, what is the best way for them to connect and find you? And then we're gonna have one last question.
Okay. Best way is just go to ahumanproject.com. So,
Okay.
Not the. So.
ahumanproject.com. You can also go to lifeonfire.com and grab the show notes from this. So we're gonna have all of Wes's contact info. We're gonna have everything like Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff. And just break this down into some other nuggets and tips for you readers out there. And are
there readers left? Yeah.
I know, right? Who wants to read? Read for me. So one thing that, and you put yourself out there, and but what's one thing that most people don't know about you?
I think I know what you want the answer to be. Maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things that most people don't know about me.
Could be anything from wacky, funny, a talent, to whatever first thing pops in your head.
I don't know. I like chick flicks, but that's
All
not
right.
that crazy.
What's your favorite? The Notebook?
Yeah, no. Like Miss Congeniality or something. Like, there you go. Like, is that vulnerable enough, right? Like, that's harder to say than my past, right?
I used to be addicted to the Housewives of New Jersey.
Yeah.
Well, while we're going there,
the only one I liked, because Jody watches them. I don't watch them. Is what is the Florida one or whatever? They always had insane cat
Atlanta?
flights. No, it's
Miami.
Miami, yeah.
That's the one I haven't watched.
Yeah, they're beating each other up and all kinds of stuff.
You're not living till you're yanking hair.
Yeah, apparently. I don't know. There's a lot of things that people don't know about me. I mean, I got a fun little fact sheet on my personal website. Just different things that. I mean, I used to be a model. I don't know. Is that I tried out for American Idol. Let's just throw it all out there.
There we go.
There you go. So, and cut.
Awesome. Well, there you have it. Wes Chapman, from chick flicks to model to, I love it. Well, hey man, you're doing up to big things. I love what you're doing.
Appreciate it.
And
man.
I mean, literally changing lives, and that's how it's done. And guys, if you don't love what you do, if you wouldn't, work and do what you do without getting paid, then you should make that shift. Get on purpose, get aligned, like Wes was talking about. Dive in, dig in, and be that hero, and set your life and business on fire. So with that, we'll hope you're having a great day, and we'll catch up with you soon. See you guys.
See ya.
I'm here to help you set your life on fire.